Welcome back, everybody. Let's go back in history a little bit. 1845, right there in the reign of Queen Victoria, Canadians started to celebrate her birthday, which is May the 24th, as a holiday. So when she died in 1901, we decided we are going to officially declare this day a federal holiday named, ta-da, Victoria Day. So if you ask me, I don't know. I don't think there's any better way to celebrate this occasion than with the British tradition of afternoon tea. So why don't we host our very own tea party here right now? We've got Toronto baker Colin Asuncion, who is going to guide us through this beautiful ritual. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Hello, hi Mel, hi Jess. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to have our little virtual tea party today.
Well, Mel and I were so excited. We busted out our best tea sets. Mel's is like Buckingham Palace sanctioned tea set. And mine, of course, is mixed matched and very old. So perfectly fitting for our personalities, you know? But before we get down to actually having our beautiful little tea party, I need you to clarify something, Colin, because I feel like a lot of people would refer to what we're doing here as like high tea, but that's not correct, is it?
So that's right. It would be a mistake to call something like this high tea. This is actually called afternoon tea, and it was traditionally served to the upper class in the mid-afternoon, and it's a light meal that's consisting of scones, tea, of course, light finger sandwiches, cake, and cookies, served in the afternoon to the upper class. Now, high tea was a different meal, a much heavier meal, and it was for the working class. And they would have this meal after a long working day without a lunch break. And this meal was served at, regular dining tables, like high tables, hence the name high tea. Whereas afternoon tea was served on sofas and more comfortable chairs that were a little bit lower. So the more you know.
That's so cool.
So listen, we've got a lot to get to today because there's so much to learn as we're already doing here. And we also have some really fun facts and fun trivia to share about Queen Victoria along the way. For example, she was a trend setter. So it turns out that when she got married to Prince Albert and wore a white dress, that was the birth of brides copying Queen Victoria's trend of the white dress. Before that, it was, hey, any color goes. So I just love that. Okay, going into our afternoon tea as we get smarter along the way, there is no afternoon tea without scones, or if you're in the UK, scones. I know, mind blown. But they can be really intimidating to a lot of people if you've never made them. So let's go through, first of all, are they that hard to make? And then how do we do that, Colin?
It's a common misconception that scones are very difficult to make and people can be really intimidated by them. But I think they're really simple. They're great for beginner bakers because they don't require any specialty tools, any special equipment. You can do it all by hand. But because people are intimidated by scone making, I have some hot tips. So one tip is to always use cold butter and don't over mix your dough because you want to make sure that your butter stays cold and stays solid. So you have these like chunks of butter in your dough before you bake it, because as you bake it, the butter melts and it releases steam, and then that puffs up and then makes for a really flaky, tender scone. For an afternoon tea, you would traditionally have a classic scone as well as a sweet scone. So we have a classic and then a blueberry one as well.
I love that. And I'm going to do something very not afternoon tea, and I just talk with my mouth full, because a lot of people may associate maybe like a lemon curd or something like that to accompany a scone/scone. But you've done something a little bit different. You've gone for a mango curd, which sounds really interesting. Tell us about that.
Well, I figured, we're in a pandemic. These are weird times. Let's try new things. So rather than the traditional lemon curd, I went with a mango curd. It's a nice, bright, tropical flavor. It's unexpected, which is something that I love whenever I'm in the kitchen. And mango curd is great because you can have it on so many different things. You can put it on yogurt. You can put it on ice cream. You can, of course, have it with scones or scones. You can put it on buttered toast. It's very versatile and very tasty.
Love, love, love. Okay, time for another fun fact about Queen Victoria. Okay, so
love the facts.
Her uncle dies. I know, I love this one too. Okay, so her uncle dies and she ascends to the throne at the age of 18. And tradition at the time sort of dictated that you couldn't propose to a reigning monarch So Queen Victoria proposed to Prince Albert herself, as we saw in the beautiful film Young Victoria, which I love and I watch it once a year and I'm obsessed with. But let's get back to food, specifically the tea party food, because I think a big part of when you see like people having tea are those little cucumber sandwiches, which I'm obsessed about. Colin, can you tell us about yours?
Absolutely. I love a cucumber sandwich. They just feel very chic, very fancy, and very refreshing. And mine are inspired by a classic deli sandwich. So, in addition to fresh, crunchy cucumber, we've got herbed cream cheese and smoked salmon. And I've cut off the crusts to my sandwiches because we're going fancy, we're going chic. And yeah, it's a lovely way to ground the meal. I think, you see all this stuff I have in front of me. We have so many sweets. So during afternoon
Yeah.
tea, it's so important to have something savory to ground the meal and make sure you don't go into sugar shock.
Absolutely. Okay, we've got more fun facts, everybody. So hold on tight. Turns out Queen Victoria, she was just 39 when she first became a grandmother. Jess, that means we would be already deep into grandmotherhood if that was us. Like, could you even imagine? Like, we look 19. I can't even imagine. But moving on from that, hey, you were talking about the savory, Colin. Let's get into the sweet because I feel like this
Hmm.
afternoon tea would not be complete without some sweet treats and cookies in particular. And you've sent us a selection of some really, really neat ones. And we're going to start with chai sugar cookies. So tell us about these. They look delicious.
So yes, it's a chai spiced cookie. And I thought, it's tea time. Why not have a tea infused dessert? Because I love a theme. So these again are a chai spiced
Mm.
cookie. Oh, I'm so glad you like them.
Hmm.
I'm going to tuck into mine shortly. And they're drizzled with white chocolate. And I love the combination of like warm spices with that sweet white chocolate. And it's something that's really easy to do to make your cookies look extra fancy and extra elegant. All you have to do is take some white chocolate chips, put them in the microwave, and then put the melted chocolate in a piping bag or even just like a Ziploc bag and cut off the tip. And then drizzle away, and you have a beautiful, decorated, elegant cookie.
Colin, these are gorgeous cookies. These are
Oh,
like
good. I'm so
my
glad.
ideal. Like if I came up with like a cookie that I could eat every day, this would honestly be it. Bravo,
Oh,
sir.
that's the
Gorgeous.
biggest
Gorge,
compliment.
gorge,
Thank
gorge.
you. Oh, I'm so glad.
But now it's time for more fun facts. Did you know that Queen Victoria survived 8 assassination attempts? That's a lot of pistols being pointed at her. But let's get back to cookies.
Too
I'm so
many. Too many. Okay.
That's eight
Eight
too
too
many.
many. Yeah.
Eight too many. But we're going to get back to
Oh,
cookies
man.
because your last cookie is a tahini cookie. And I don't think I've ever had a cookie with tahini in it. I've had tahini,
Hmm.
which is delicious. Why is tahini sort of well suited for a cookie?
So I think tahini is great for a cookie and great for any dessert because it adds really like rich, nutty, sort of earthy flavor without adding any sweetness. So I find it makes desserts really rich without making them overly sweet. So I find they're a little bit more sophisticated, more adult. And I think a tahini cookie, first of all, very easy to make. But secondly, I think it's sort of like the peanut butter cookies older sibling who's like a little bit more sophisticated, more fancy, and maybe
That's
has
what I
a
was
peanut
gonna say.
allergy.
That's perfect, perfect analogy. It's like, it's like
Yeah,
the peanut butter cookie grew up a bit and now she's a little bit, more sophisticated.
exactly,
Mm.
exactly.
Yeah.
Very chic. She's gone on to do fancy bougie things in her life. And this cookie, it's a drop cookie. It's a drop cookie, so it's very easy to make. You don't have to roll it out or cut it out. It's just you roll the dough into balls and you bake it as is, and it's topped with white and black sesame seeds, which add lovely like visual appeal, and they add a little bit of a crunch, which is kind of nice.
Mm,
Yeah, it's a nice little twist on top. Hmm. I
Hmm.
like that. This last tidbit is one of those that make you go, hmm. So it turns out that this we call this the last Tory tidbit. Turns out that Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, was her first cousin. So
it
it was
happens.
his father. It
Oh,
happens,
okay.
it's hard to find a
Yeah.
good man. So yeah,
True.
his father and her mother were brother and sister. What? We're going to leave it right there and we're going to move on to sweeter things because that's where, frankly, we should be focused right now. And specifically, it is a matcha strawberry shortcake.
It's a matcha green tea cake because, like I said before, I love a tea infused dessert for tea time. And matcha, it's kind of botanical, it's fresh tasting, it's one of my favorite flavors. And this, as a traditional strawberry shortcake, it is filled with whipped cream and strawberries. And I have another hot tip for anyone baking at home. If you are making a dessert that's topped with or filled with whipped cream, a good idea is to stabilize it. And that means adding something to the whipped cream to make sure that it keeps its shape, maintains its shape over time. And so I stabilize my whipped cream with skim milk powder. And so you just add 1 tablespoon of skim milk powder to a cup of whipping cream before you whip it up.
Huh.
And then that will ensure, again, that it stabilizes it, it stays fluffy, it stays firm over time. And also it doesn't affect the flavor.
Good tip.
Hey, it just occurred to me that we're literally spilling the tea about Tori while we sip the tea, which is just kind of fabulous.
Love it.
I love it. And I
Spill
love
that
Tori
tea
from
about
Victoria.
Tori.
Tori!
This has been so much fun. We've learned a lot. We've eaten and drunk well as well. Hot tips for baking. Colin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This has been an absolute blast. I love a tea party and I love spilling the tea. So this has been an absolute
You
delight.
got it. And for everybody watching, listen, all these recipes, I know you're wondering, where can we find them? Find them on our social media channels after this episode. And don't forget, everybody, have a happy May 2-4 weekend. See you after this.